Aquaba. I like to welcome you. Aquaba. I like to welcome you. Aquaba. I like to welcome you. Aquaba.
The role of diasporans is beyond debate all over the world. We know what diasporans and those living abroad have done to other countries. Ghanaians can do the same thing, and it is time for you to do that.
From Congresswoman Gwen. If you haven't heard the news, she is our lead co-chair of the Congressional Ghana Caucus.
You know, the very first person from the African continent that I met in Milwaukee was a Ghanaian, a couple, Dr. and Mrs. Menza. Thank you. And they brought so much to our community that it was difficult, if not impossible, not to try to pattern some of the things after Africans and to help to awaken us to the beauty, richness of our culture, the intelligentsia, the history of our country. I was the first woman in Milwaukee to wear African garb. Me, I was. But that was we have got to go beyond the symbolic, as the trade minister has indicated. We have to go beyond the symbolism of Pan-Africanism. Wearing the clothes and eating the food. Of course, I enjoy that part too. The dances and the ritual, and to really have it manifest itself in the improvement of lives on both sides of the Atlantic. I'm a member of the Ways and Means Committee, and of course the Ways and Means Committee has a subcommittee on trade, and it is where the former chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Representative Charles Rangel, started the AGOA project, and he made me swear when he left that we would watch out for trade relations with Africa. We have heard from the trade minister that AGOA is good, but we need to go beyond that. We need to do more. He talked to us about the need to assist Africa with infrastructure. And when I go to Africa and look at the infrastructure improvements supported by other countries, it's always China. Y'all, I don't think I'm going to be able to learn Chinese anytime soon. It's a little bit hard. So we're both English-speaking nations. There's no reason that we can't develop a stronger trade relation, not built on, giving Ghana something. It is the wealth. It has its own wealth. But to support them in the development of their wealth that they have. It's in a strategic place on the Atlantic Ocean. It is moved by the rule of law and institutions. It's a stable democracy. And it's a place where we ought to be able to attract more investment from Americans, and they want to invest in Africa. Ghana is a place that is very strategic to the United States in terms of its position and its cohesion with other parts of Africa for security of the continent. And I'm telling you, this is the perfect time for us to have launched the Ghana Caucus in Congress. That's right. I first learned about how important Ghana was from my late great colleague. And you'll know this name. If you do, give some applause. our ancestor, Donald Payne Sr. Donald Payne Sr., as a school teacher, celebrated the independence of Ghana and said that they will set the pace for the future for all of Africa. And Donald Payne Sr. was a mentor of mine. And so I've gone to Ghana several times, and I'm looking forward to working with the trade ministry, with all of you, to really bring our relationship current and about business, y'all. We're gonna be about some business. Hit the drums on that one. Yes. And so I promise you that this is gonna be more than a symbolic, ceremonial relation. We will dance, party, and eat tonight, but tomorrow we will get to work.
Pause. If you believe it's pronounced Gala, make some noise, please.
And if you believe it's supposed to be Gala, round of applause.
All right, so what are we going by tonight? Is it Gala or Gala? Gala, it is.
Good evening. Okay, that's better. Maybe the food hasn't come out yet, but it's coming. Okay, I had a whole speech prepared, but I'm going to keep it short. I really just want to give thanks to everyone that has supported Ghana Diaspora Public Affairs Collective. If you've been hearing the whispers about the organization, tonight is basically our coming out party. That's right. So you will learn a lot more about the organization tonight. But I just want to thank all the folks who have supported us. I do want to thank our sponsor, Tap Tap Send, as well. Give a hand around applause for them. Okay. I also want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Fela Reynolds as well for their support for tonight. Okay. I want to thank the Ghana Physicians and Surgeons Foundation for their strong support of us tonight. Okay. And I also want to thank our special guest, Congresswoman Gwen. I hope you enjoyed her speech earlier today. I also want to thank Ambassador Haija, Alima-Mahama. There she is. Thank you. And of course, Honorable Kyerematen. A big round of applause for him. And then really quickly, some people think that this organization is just me. That is not true, if you can guess by now. And so I really want to bring to the stage the founding council of GHPAC. Please come to the stage. Stephanie Arthur, Foster Che, Laura Cheru, Fawzia Ibrahim, who isn't here today, and then we also have Isaac Mosley from our executive council here.
Ghana ambassador to the U.S., the one and only Haija Alima-Mahama.
Good evening. The Minister for Trade and Industry, Republic of Ghana, Honorable Alima-Mahama, Congresswoman Gwen on the side she's left, members of Congress present here, the Director of District Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, and representative of the Mayor of Washington, D.C. Nana Owoso Achampong Asante Hine of the Washington, D.C. Metro, and your delegation, CEO and members of GHPAC, distinguished awardees, friends of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I consider it an honor to be present with you tonight to share in the joy of today's awardees. Let me use the opportunity to welcome our Honorable Minister Kyerematen and your delegation to the U.S. and wish you a warm stay here. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, upon receipt of this invitation,
it was obvious to me that Ghana Diaspora Public Affairs Collective was up to another milestone in establishing themselves as the go-to organization on diaspora relations in the Washington, D.C. metro. My initial interaction with GHPAC resulted in their facilitation of my very first and extremely productive virtual town hall meeting held last December with Ghanaians compatriots in the USA. So I was empowered by them right from the beginning, and I appreciate that. Since then, the relationship between my embassy and GHPAC keeps growing. Hence, I could not have said no to this invitation. Besides, every good job deserves recognition, and a program to award these deserving Ghanaians at this time should benefit from every support from the mission, from every one of us, and from myself. Today we are here once again to witness the outcomes of hard work and dedication to the ideas of diaspora relations in Ghana and the US. Ghana Diaspora Public Affairs Collective was established as a public policy and business professional think tank focused on empowering Ghanaians in the diaspora and advancing US-Ghana relations. They have devoted their time working with Ghanaians, people of Ghana, the science friends of Ghanaians, and engaging them in civil matters and advancing policies through research, education, and community building. Let me therefore commend GHPAC for the many achievements they have chalked in their short time of existence, including their co-hosting of a meeting with the U.S. State Department on issues of diplomatic and security relations with Ghana. Honorable Minister, members of Congress, distinguished guests, on behalf of the President, the government, and the people of Ghana, I wish to congratulate all the awardees of tonight's gala. Your hard work has paid off, and your recognition could not have come at a better time. You have and are truly making Ghana proud, and we appreciate you. While at it, it is also important that I make a particular mention of Dr. Kweku Ohinefrempong, yes, one of Ghana's illustrious sons, who was called to glory earlier this year. And I believe he will be recognized tonight. May his gentle soul rest in perfect peace. Finally, to the organizers of this gala and all the awardees, I say, you could keep up the excellent work. Remember the efforts of your forebearers, the efforts they put to get you where you are now, to get you this far. Do not derail in your efforts to raise the flag of Ghana high. And lastly, I will also entreat you to mentor some up and coming ones. You sure will be leaving a solid legacy by which you will be remembered. And I wish you all the best in all your future endeavors. And I wish you a very beautiful evening. Thank you for your attention, and God bless you.
And advance regulatory and legislative policy initiatives that impact Ghanaians across the diaspora. Our goal is to identify opportunities where we can ensure that Ghanaian voices are brought to the table. When we think about workforce, higher education, conversations about the burden of student loan debt, access to health care, supporting essential workers during the pandemic, Ghanaians fit into each of these categories. But the question remains, is our community at the table when policy decisions are being made, ones that ultimately impact us? Well, that is where the government affairs team steps in. To that end, Our three objectives include engagement. So that's building allyship with policymakers and stakeholders. Equity, ensuring that Ghanaian voices are at the table and that we get an equitable share of resources. And lastly, impact. We intend to advance and shift policy to our benefit. So the government affairs team, we take a multi-tiered approach, and it begins by looking at where Ghanaians are most populous in cities across this country. These data helps to guide us as we identify our political targets and individuals that we can work with to move policy forward. And in some cases, even repealing policies that negatively impact Ghanaians. So some of the examples where we intend to be influential, and I'll give you a few that I think are really important. Housing, right? How many of us know people who come to this country and they've been renting for the duration of their time here and giving the money to landlords when they very well could be homeowners? The problem usually lies with not knowing how to access these opportunities. Sometimes even being intimidated by the process. So GHPAC will work collectively with the Biden administration and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to ensure that Ghanaian communities are aware of first-time homebuyer programs and things of that nature. Because what we know is housing is what creates generational wealth. What we know is when you own a home, you can leverage equity for emergencies, your children are heading to college. And so we want to make sure that Ghanaians have access to these resources. Education. We know that Ghanaians, what do we tell our kids? Oh, go to school, be a doctor, be a lawyer. And they do these things, but it also comes with a lot of student loan debt. And so we're so grateful for the Biden administration for his recent student loan relief program. But a challenge is, what is the first step to accessing the money? It doesn't just fall into your account, right? So, on September 19th, GHPAC hosted a stakeholder engagement call where we invited members of the Ghanaian community and others to join to learn how do you access this money? Do I qualify? What do I need to do? If I'm confused about the application process, who do I need to speak with? And so we not only had a call, but we had next steps. And that included a toolkit that provided all the information that was needed and whom to connect with to ensure that they had access to these resources. And so what I'm saying here today is stakeholder engagement. Unity among our people is important. If you want a seat at the table, you want your voice to be heard, we have to work together collectively to achieve that. And this is what GHPAC is doing. Thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your dinner.
So, there are distinguished honorees this evening. If you weren't aware, Ghanaians are at the highest level of governance. Let's clap for that. When we talk about the importance of having a seat at the table, this is what we mean. Representation is extremely important. So I'm so pleased to introduce to you all, if you didn't already know their illustrious names. These honorees serve at the White House and or are President Biden appointees. And so first we will start with Denise Laurent Manti, who is currently Director of Africa at the National Security Council. Denise, where are you? Oh, there you are, looking amazing. Can you please come to the stage? Denise once served as a Foreign Affairs Officer at the U.S. Department of State. She also recently served as Special Assistant to Secretary of State John Kerry, I think we all know that name, and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. She also served in the Bureau of Oceans, Environment, and Science, as well as the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor as a Special Assistant. She's a native of the Bronx, New York, and she holds a bachelor's degree in international
this stage, they should study international relations. And a master's degree in African Studies and Public Policy from Howard University. But more than her bio, I just want you to know that every day she's fighting for Africa, and low-key she's fighting for Ghanaians at the White House, and she's one of our strongest advocates. And so I'm so pleased that she's, yes, and you heard her. You know you have to listen to me. The ambassador can testify to what I just said. And so please give a round of applause for our distinguished honoree. She's so famous now, we secretly at GHPAC call her Adjoa Beyonce. But if you already don't know her, please meet her acquaintance. Adjoa B. Asamoah is at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, where she leads the Department on Equity. Do you know how important that is? You know, especially, I think you heard Kim talk about the importance of affordable housing. And Ghanaians are not exempt to that conversation. I think we all know about this issue, even though we don't like to talk about it. And so it's so important that one of us is at this department where she can really lead on this issue. And so we should really take advantage of that. And I think you heard Kim say how important it is for us to engage. Okay, so Adjoa, you also know her from other achievements, right? She's received so many awards. I was so lucky that she would come here this evening. But she's a lifelong racial equity champion, an award-winning social impact strategist, a highly sought-after political operative, and a history-making policy architect. If you aren't aware of this historic achievement of the Crown Act, the Crown Act was really about protecting the right of African American women to wear our hair the way we want to in the workplace without discrimination. And so, Adjoa was part of that Crown Coalition, and as part of the initiative for the Office of African American Affairs. She's a former adjunct professor who has taught African American Studies and Psychology. And Adjoa leverages cultural intelligence and behavioral insights to create meaningful systems of change and develop winning campaigns. She was also entrusted, I think this is how all of you know her, entrusted to serve as the Biden-Harris campaign's national advisor for Black engagement. And I was so pleased to work with her on that campaign. It wasn't easy. And then, and was then tapped to serve as the Black Engagement Director for the historic 59th Presidential Inauguration Committee. And so with that, I'm so pleased to welcome our next distinguished honoree, Adjoa B. Asamoah. Now, if you don't know what that means, it means it tells all the mayors across the country what to do. And that's a lot of mayors. So, at the White House, he serves as President Biden's primary liaison to local elected officials. So if you didn't know, all the councilmen tonight were saying hello to him is for a reason. He worked on Biden-Harris transition team and on the Biden-Harris presidential campaign as National States Strategy and Program Advisor. Earlier in his career, he was the senior advisor for then Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo re-election campaign and worked in the office of the governor as Director of Public Engagement and Community Affairs. During the Obama-Biden administration, so this is his second presidential administration, Amo worked in the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs as a liaison to governors and state elected officials, and on the Obama-Biden re-election campaign as National Political Coordinator. And native of Rhode Island, so there are Ghanaians in Rhode Island, you don't know. He graduated from Wheaton College in Massachusetts, Phi Beta Kappa, and magna cum laude. where he earned a Truman Scholarship. He also studied at the University of Oxford as a Marshall Scholar. Mr. Amo, where are you? Gabe. Please come up. Don't be shy. Congratulations as your distinguished honorary award.
I've known him since he was a little child.
My name is Sophia Usuecha.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Isaac Duarte.
And we're part of the GHPAC Political Action Committee team here in the U.S. I believe there's a slight video to play, so we're going to play that for you now. But also candidates that have a passion and hope to advocate for issues that are part of our priorities and similar to the things that Kim discussed as part of our legislative program. After finding and identifying candidates, we hope to fund them. Some of these hopeful candidates are on the state level, so we make sure to send donations that way, and also federal candidates for congressional seats as well as providing support through making sure that we can help them get people to help them with their Get Out the Vote campaigns, and making sure that they have boots on the ground to make sure there's actually victories, and it's not just a check going their way.
So what you see up here are some of the candidates we have endorsed in the past. And I also want to recognize one candidate here who is the first Ghanaian in the state of Maryland to run for state delegate, Mr. Adrian Buffalo. Can you stand up, please, sir? To GHPAC, but also donated to the Senator's campaign, so we can get him in the House. And so, thank you guys again. And so, thank you.
My name is Zakara Campbell, and I am honored to serve as the political director for the CBC PAC. The Congressional Black Caucus and our Political Action Committee is committed to expanding the largest caucus ever in CBC history since our founding 51 years ago. With 58 members, 6 committee chairs, and 23 subcommittee chairs who directly influence and write policy. Led by Chairman Gregory Meeks, the first Black Foreign Affairs Chair. Chairman Meeks' skilled diplomacy across the globe is something to honor and be proud of. The work he does helps to continue the much-needed work and progress for Black people across the globe. I'm so honored to continue developing these much-needed diaspora connections and partnership with you. We are currently in the fight for the soul of our nation. I do not say this lightly. We are in midterms that will determine and set the stage for the presidential election in 2024, where we are fighting against backwards progress for our people, from police reform to voting rights, to basic right to get the treatment you deserve from our medical system, to clean water, to good paying jobs, to safer streets for our children. It is imperative that we keep our majority in the House and expand our majority in the Senate. These laws will shape us, mold us in the coming years, not only on the upper chambers, but for our state legislators and governor races that will determine redistricting that is fully reflective of our diverse country. It's about creating an equitable nation for us to thrive in. Last cycle, we had the first time ever 8 CBC members who were on the front lines of defense to maintain our majority, and all of those members came back. Those seats were imperative in us maintaining our majority, but we must win Stanford Bishop in Georgia, as well as Reverend Warnock, Lauren Underwood in Illinois, Johanna Hayes in Connecticut, and Stephen Horsford in Nevada. And grow in New York with Jackie Gordon, Amelia Sykes in Ohio, Jevin Hodge in Arizona, John Davis in North Carolina, and Dr. Kermit Jones in California. And expand our Senate majority with Chief Justice Sherry Beasley in North Carolina, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin, and Chief Val Demings in Florida. I'm so thankful for continuing this partnership with the GHPAC and look forward to our continued wins. Onward to victory and keeping the forward progress in this country and the diaspora. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister Kyerematen, Her Excellency Ambassador Haija Mohammed, Congresswoman Gwen, amazing awardees, GHPAC leadership, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Mayor Miro Bowser, I welcome you to our city, a place where residents, businesses, and visitors have a fair shot to economic prosperity. Due to our strategic location as the nation's capital, diverse community, and the mayor's personal commitment to equity and inclusiveness. As a Ghanaian in her cabinet, I am thrilled to be here in support of this great launch. By day, I run a city agency called the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, DCRA. Our mission is to protect the health, safety, and economic interest of residents, businesses, and visitors to the District of Columbia. We regulate business activity and construction through permitting, inspections, licensing, and enforcement. So I have first-hand knowledge of the impacts that public policy and advocacy can have on the quality of life of people. I can see how powerful GHPAC, the express goal of building political power, can benefit Ghanaians here and abroad. To be blunt, your work is necessary because if you are not at the table, somebody else is going to eat your lunch. With that in mind, I'm incredibly excited about our future as Ghanaians, based on what GHPAC will do and can do. But the organization will need your help. I will end by encouraging you to donate because there are several candidates that could go a long way with your support. But keep this in mind. If you want to go anywhere fast, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you go with a group. Thank you and enjoy the city.
Councilman Pius Ali was a youth and community engagement specialist at the University of Southern Maine's Liskey School of Public Service, Portland Empowered, and he has spent the better part of his career focused on community engagement. He has created meaningful and ongoing dialogue across cultural, ethnic, socioeconomic, and faith-based barriers. But most people know Mayor Pro Tem Ali as the first African-born Muslim American to be elected office in Maine, becoming a member of the city's elected board of public education in 2013. This man is really symbolic of what an elected official should be. Everyone knows him in Maine, and then outside of Maine, they know him here in Washington, D.C., because he knows to engage with other elected officials. They share war stories, they compare notes, and he's always representing not only Ghanaians, but the Muslim community, the immigrant community, Maine at the highest level. And so I just wanted to make sure that you said that. So Mayor Pro Tem Ali, thank you so much and congratulations on your Pioneer Award. Youngest servant ever, Mayor Pro Tem of Bowie, Maryland. He's right here. He was elected to serve the residents of District 3. Adrian has called Bowie home his entire life. He's a graduate of the Martha Catholic High School at the University of Baltimore, graduating in just 2016 with a bachelor's in government and public policy. So you see, you guys, these degrees, they mean something. Adrian also received his Master's of Business Administration from American University's Caucus School of Business. Adrian has spent his professional career working for members of the United States House of Representatives. So if you didn't know, there are Ghanaians in Congress. First, he joined the House Democratic Caucus as a press intern under the leadership of then Representative Becerra, who is now, I believe, our Health and Human Services Secretary. Later, he joined the office of Congressman, I cannot say this name, Ruben Cohen, working as a national press assistant. Currently, he used to work as a campaign manager for Steny Hoyer for Congress. Do you know who Steny Hoyer is? Big, powerful man. Number 2. The Maryland Political Organization, and he represents the campaign for Majority Leader Steny Hoyer. At this time, I would really like to welcome Mayor Pro Tem Adrian Waffle, who is currently running for State House the delegate. So please vote on November 8th.
Now on to our keynote speaker. This is an esteemed man that needs no introduction. A 2-time Minister of Trade, former ambassador to the U.S., and as some of you may have heard earlier on, one of the architects of the Africa Free Trade Agreement. Now, without further ado, please help me welcome the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry, Mr. Alima-Mahama.
Nana Asante-Hene of the Washington, D.C. metro area, Nana and the delegation, distinguished delegation, the leadership of the Ghana PAC, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me start first by expressing my profound gratitude to the leadership of the Ghana PAC for extending this invitation to me to join you in this very important inaugural Golden Gala or Gala award ceremony. And let me, in the same vein, commend you, the leadership, for your effort in establishing this very important organization. I know tonight is a night of celebration, and the last thing I want to do is to stand between the awardees and their moment of glory. So I'd like to speak off script and make a few remarks. And in doing so, I'd like to focus on 3 things. First, U.S.-Ghana relations and the role that Ghanaians living abroad and diasporans can play. Secondly, the role that diasporans and Ghanaians living abroad can play in the transformation of our country, Ghana, by investing in Ghana. And last but not the least, how could Ghanaians living abroad, diasporans, leverage the competitive advantage of Ghana in exploiting the opportunities in Africa, our dear continent. So let me start with U.S.-Ghana relations. As I'm sure you're all aware, the United States and Ghana have had very deep, long-standing fraternal relations dating several decades. As you recall, at the independence of our country, the United States was represented by no mean a person than the Vice President of the United States. And our bonds of friendship have been based on our common ancestry, our shared values, and mutual respect for each other. And Ghana has also enjoyed extensive support from the United States of America through the assistance that we've received from institutions of state like the USAID, the US Exim Bank, USTDA, what used to be OPIC, now the Development Finance Institution of the United States, and various departments and agencies of government here in the United States. I'm sure you're all aware that the first major infrastructural project in our country, and it still remains unparalleled, that is the construction of the Adjoa Dam, was actually inspired by efforts of the United States, the President of the United States, working in collaboration with the First President of Ghana. However, in spite of these bonds of friendship that we've celebrated over the years, it is quite clear that the level of trade and investment flows between the United States and Ghana have not reached their optimal levels. And we still lag behind many other countries like China. It might interest you to know that US-Ghana trade flows in 2020 was about 1.4 billion United States dollars. US-China trade flows in the same year was 8.2 billion United States dollars. The leading investment countries, those who invest in Ghana, the first five are Australia, China, Netherlands, and India. So you realize that the United States does not show up. Now, I believe that Ghanaians living abroad and the diasporans have a major role to play in changing this narrative. And I believe that we can do this in a number of ways. First is about disseminating information about opportunities in Ghana. And we all know this is a big country. There are people living in LA who do not even know what goes on down south. In Georgia. And so it is our responsibility as Ghanaians living abroad and diasporans to be able to communicate opportunities about our country to people here in the United States. Secondly, we have to be able to offer our services to support our country. And I know there are many of you here who have done that for some time, and you continue to do it. But between us and the authorities in Ghana, we need to have a more structured engagement that would bring the services of Ghanaians living abroad and diasporans to support our agenda and back home. It has to be apolitical. It's not a question of you are affiliated to party A or party B, and when the government that you are affiliated to is in power, then whether you qualify or not, then you are shipped to occupy positions in our country. I know there are people here who have the experience, the knowledge, and the expertise to make things happen in Ghana. And we need to have a structured program that will bring Ghanaians living abroad to support our efforts in Ghana. Thirdly, It's about advocacy. You live here in the United States, and you know that unless you have somebody that speaks on your behalf, you'll not show up on the radar. That's how the system works. And that is why the role of lobbies is mainstreamed in the legal jurisprudence of the United States of America. That's how the system works. And it's against this background that I think we need to commend the GHPAC for initiating the establishment of the Congressional Ghana Caucus, which is ably led by some of our very distinguished Congresswomen. And last but not the least is we need your investment in Ghana. We need your investments in Ghana. Congresswoman Gwen talked about the fact that it's not about drumming and dancing alone. Yes, that's nice. There's time to do that. But some of you are well connected in this society, and you can bring not only your own dollars but your friends to invest in our country. The role of diasporans is beyond debate all over the world. We know what diasporans and those living abroad have done to other countries, in Asia, in Europe, around the world. Ghanaians can do the same thing, and it is time for you to do that. It's not about complaining about what is going on in Ghana and how things don't work. Yes, we acknowledge that, and it's work in progress. But your investment can turn things around and make Ghana a better place. And so this leads me to the second thing that I wanted to talk about, which is investing in Ghana. Because of where I sit, let me start with investment opportunities in the industrial sector. You know, it is not by coincidence that the most powerful economies in the world also happen to be the most industrialized countries. And you can name them: the United States, China, Japan, Germany, France, India, South Korea, name them. They also happen to be the most industrialized countries. So there must be something in industrial transformation that generates transformation and growth. And that is why in Ghana, we've embarked on a very aggressive program for industrial transformation. How is it that for over 100 years, we have not been able to think beyond cocoa? How is it possible? That with all the natural resources we have depended on cocoa for over 100 years to support over 90% of our export revenue. So we've taken a decision as a government that yes, cocoa has served us well, gold has served us well, but we have to go beyond chocolate and look at other sectors. So we've identified a number of other sectors. The first, obviously, is agro-processing. And every district in Ghana, we have 260 administrative districts in Ghana. Every district has a natural endowment in agriculture that we can add value to. So we have the One District, One Factory program that seeks to provide government support to the private sector. This is not about state enterprises, about government supporting the private sector to establish at least one major industrial enterprise in each of our 260 districts. So Ghanaians living abroad, diasporas, the least you can do is to now enter into the 1D1F program and establish at least a manufacturing enterprise in your district where you come from. So that's agro-processing. Second, I want to follow the path that other African countries have followed by having significant resources of oil and gas and exporting them without adding value. So one of the strategic anchor industries that we are promoting now is the petrochemical industry. Because as you know, if you add value to oil and gas, you get fertilizer, you get plastics, you get bitumen. So if we were serious about road construction in our country, the petrochemical industry alone will provide the stimulus for road construction in our country. The third area that we are focusing on is bauxite and aluminium. We have some of the richest resources in terms of bauxite. And for many years we've been shipping this without adding value. Now we've taken a conscious decision to establish an integrated bauxite aluminium industry. And a new corporation has been established to provide that guidance. And it goes beyond bauxite and aluminium. We are also now working on exploiting our iron and steel industry. We are one of the few countries that has manganese, which is what you add to iron ore to give you steel. So if you have bauxite, that turns into aluminium, and you have steel, and you have plastics from your petrochemical industry, then it gives you the basis for establishing an automotive and vehicle assembly industry, which is the other strategic anchor industry that we are developing. Again, we've lost confidence in ourselves to the extent that when you tell people that we are now assembling cars in Ghana, people still doubt whether that is true or not. But within a matter of 2 years, we've been able to attract 6 out of the 7 major global auto companies into Ghana. Volkswagen is there assembling, Nissan, Toyota, Kia, Hyundai, Peugeot, they are all online. So again, something is happening, and we need to be able to be part of this exercise. And then we are also focusing on pharmaceuticals. Ghana imports over 70% of our pharmaceutical requirements. And so you can see the opportunity for investments into the pharmaceutical industry. And I'm happy that I was sitting beside a brother here who has already taken a firm decision to establish a pharmaceutical plant in Ghana. Scale up to the quality that allows us to be able to export our pharmaceutical products globally, which is the Global Manufacturing Practice Standard, GMP standard, or the WHO standard. We are also aggressively promoting the chloroalkaline industry from industrial salt. You know, Ghana has the capacity to mine over 3 million tons of salt, industrial salt, every year. But unfortunately, we do less than 150,000. But this is the basis for establishing the caustic soda industry and all these chloroalkaline industries. I'm going through this because I think if we want Ghanaians living abroad to start looking to Ghana in terms of investments, then we have to be able to tell them where the opportunities are. We are also promoting garments and textiles. Again, anybody who knows this industry will tell you that Vietnam And a country like Bangladesh exports $30 billion every year, garments and textiles. So if you're exporting cocoa and you get $2 billion, and you have the potential to make even half of what Bangladesh exports in garments and textiles, then you need to know where to turn to. It's not going to happen by chance. The United States, yes, introduced Adjoa in 2000 under President Clinton, but this was only opening up U.S. market to Africa. But if you don't produce, you cannot sell. When the United States started engaging in China, the issue of human rights, the issue of what happens in China was not on the table. Was not on the table. So we need now to make a case for the United States to treat Africa as one Africa, the United States of Africa. The moment we start selecting between countries based on the governance record, human rights record, that in itself dismembers our continent. But our collective strength is what makes Africa unique, and not our individual countries. And so we ought to make a case that, yes, there are challenges in some African countries. There's no doubt about that. But now that we've gotten our act together and we established a continental single market, we want the United States now to create that special strategic relationship with Africa. And to do that, first is infrastructure. After the World War, it was the United States that transformed Germany through the Marshall Plan. And it all came from Congress. You go read about the Marshall Plan, an act of Congress to provide funding to support infrastructure development in Germany. If we are serious about developing a new relationship between Africa and the United States, I want you Ghanaians living abroad to make a case for a new, it doesn't have to be Marshall, it can be somebody else. Renew a need infrastructural plan to support the development of infrastructure in Africa. And that is what is going to make a difference.
Now, this gentleman, maybe you don't need any introduction. Dr. Michael Oben, world-renowned plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills, considered one of the best. And if you know, rescue this Gorilla Glue girl recently. But more than that, it's been involved in over 30 innovations in the U.S. and world patents in areas including energy recovery, refrigeration and heat pump. I mean, like the list goes actually long. And so, yeah, I know him too. And so he's used his platform to go beyond entertainment with a purpose. And so we really wanted to award him tonight, DJ Quakes. He holds a pro bono legal clinic with other members of the association every month. Every Tuesday, right? Right, 6 p.m., 5 p.m. So please, if you have people in the community who have immigration issues, this is who you talk to. But he needs no introduction. He received his JD from the University of District of Columbia School of Law. He also went on, because he decided to be an overachiever, to get his MBA in finance, magna cum laude from Southeastern University. And he has used his platform for the betterment of this community. Thank you so much, Mr. He has been one of the leading pioneers of very important legislation, ROPA, Who here knows about ROPA? Raise your hand. Oh, shame. Okay, so basically, if you are a child or grandchild of a Ghanaian, that means you are Ghanaian by the Constitution of Ghana. And not enough of us know that. So when you're talking about this dual citizenship, it's not about applying. You already have it by your birth, by your blood. We are Ghanaian no matter where we live, and no one says that more than Dr. Wategi, but he doesn't like us to use the word diaspora. We really thank you for your efforts. It's because of him that this law passed in Ghana, and it's waiting at the Parliament House. So if you know an MP, let them please execute it so that we can vote in 2024. Dr. Bertha, where are you? Dr. Bertha, well, you see, she has her whole team, the Ghana Physician Surgery Foundation. You hear that name again tonight. She's the president of this association, and they're just doing amazing, amazing work. You know what? We talked a lot tonight about how GHPAC is necessary to push policies and this and that, but she went and found a solution all of her own with the association's work to make sure that doctors and physicians in the United States can practice in Ghana with proper licensure. And she's done it by, and they have done it with a program to match with Ghanaian physicians in Ghana to make sure that it's truly coming together. Not only that, during COVID-19 pandemic, Dr. Bertha Ayi was one of the leading, most vocal champions. I mean, she was tireless. Was letting the community know about how to protect ourselves from the COVID-19 virus. And so for that, we really want to thank you for all of your achievements. We were earlier today honoring President Biden appointees. This is the original appointee of President Obama to the National Cancer Advisory Board. And he still serves on this cabinet to this day. He is one of the leading cancer researchers. A professor at Duke University, though I don't like to hold that against him. In June 2016, President Barack Obama appointed Dr. Ali Osman to key administration posts, naming him as a member of the National Cancer Advisory Board, and we are so grateful for his work to fight against cancer and brain tumor to this day. Thank you so much.
To make sure that the 4,000 plus physicians from Ghana who live in the United States would be able to get good licensure in Ghana and be able to contribute their skills, their talents, and all the desire they had to make an impact back home. And more importantly, I also want to thank the Ghanaian authorities, the Ghana Medical and Dental Council, the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, for the great honor they have done to us by making our organization the go-to organization through which all Ghanaian physicians in the United States can get access to what they need in Ghana by sometimes even reducing temporary licensure. And we look forward to working with them because we figured out that it looks like beyond Agenda 111, the country Ghana does not have a healthcare strategy. We don't have a 20-year plan. And so someone puts up a medical school here, somebody starts an ultrasound unit here. There is no cogent strategy. And so we're looking forward to working with all these organizations so that when someone comes to power, I heard Honorable Kyerematen talk about the fact that diaspora physicians have to be apolitical. That's what we're looking for. That no matter the color of your party or the flag that you're carrying, we would be able to work with you and say, you know what, this is the healthcare agenda for Ghana. Can you meet it? That is not the other way around, where a politician puts up a hospital and we're so excited. No, we've gotten to that point that we refuse to be excited by little things. We want a strategy that we can implement so that the ordinary Ghanaian can get access to good health care. And so we're committed to that. For me, it's been a lifelong passion. And Honorable Kyerematen would attest that I met him 22-something years ago when, as a young resident, I found a urological table that could be donated. I was only first-year resident or so. I just went to his office. He can attest to that, and he shipped it to Ghana for us. And that commitment hasn't changed. And so on behalf of the Ghanaian physicians in the U.S., we want to dedicate this award to our young physicians to let them know that Ghana's future is bright. There is a lot of hope, and that they can commit. They can not only work hard and attain the positions we've attained and the work that we do, but they can affect themselves, they can affect their families, and they can affect their communities. And so with great humility, I want to say a big thank you, and also ask that if any one of us has something to say, I'm done with what I have to say, and thank you very much for this